A new law in Hilton Head threatens to make some changes to the short-term rental market. Federal Reserve is warning of a housing bubble, and a record $10.75 million home goes under contract this week and more. We'll talk about it all on Market Mondays. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about several things having to do with the real estate market, things that could affect the real estate market. Why the change? Well, we think we've been talking too many numbers and it just, I don't know about you, but I gloss over. And we want to look at things at a higher level, give you the information that you can use. Now, if you want the numbers, they're all available in a link below. Here's your big takeaway with this week's numbers for Hilton Head Island. Properties going under contract have dropped at a level now that's greater than the drop in inventory. This is a sign that things are slowing down. The good news is the average selling price is back up to 20% over where it was at this time last year. You know, this market is all over the place and it's been especially difficult for buyers, and many have decided to kind of sit on the sideline during this frenzy. But I was talking to Michelle in my office. She put 4 deals together, or wrote 4 offers last week, and I know she wrote a couple more this weekend. She was telling me that from her perspective, buyers are willing to kind of get in there and duke it out. They want to be more competitive. So they sat on the sideline for a while. They saw prices going up and up and up, and they realized that if they wait much longer, they're going to price themselves out of the market. So they're jumping in and they're getting into the battle. And somebody like Michelle that has experience and is a great agent, she's able to help these people pull out contracts and get their deals done. Big news this week, record-breaking sale. Congratulations, Mike Broadhurst and the Broadhurst team. 19 Beach Lagoon Road, $10,750,000. Sold it in just 2 days. That breaks the Prud'homme Team's record from last year of $9.9 million. Congratulations, Mike. I don't like to be beaten, but I'm glad it's you. This week's news, the Island Packet reported on the new proposed short-term rental changes. You want to find all about those, Hilton Head Island sc.gov/short-term rentals. We'll put the exact URL right here, somewhere on the screen. But here's what you need to know. About a week and a half ago, a committee comprised of the town council, so 4 members of the 7-member town council, formed a committee. 3 of the 4 voted in favor of moving this proposal to town council. That's going to go to a vote on April 19th. And here's basically what it says. Every short-term rental property is going to have to get a permit to be a short-term rental. Proposed fee for that is $250. You have to designate a person that's kind of on call 24 hours a day for that property. They've got to respond to any complaints, and they have to respond to those complaints within an hour. This will go into effect January 1st, 2023 if approved, and any non-compliance will be met with a fine of up to $500 and 30 days in jail. That's a maximum, obviously. Permits can be revoked, meaning you could not be allowed to rent your property if you haven't paid any business license fees or taxes to the town. Or, here's the big one, the operation of the property has been declared as a nuisance. We had to dig back into the town's website to get their definition of a nuisance, and it's really loose. The question is here, you get a neighbor that's not very friendly and they're calling the cops all the time on the renters. Like, how much power are the neighbors gonna have if they don't like you? Who knows, right? If you've been convicted of 2 or more violations, so if they've visited a house on 2 occasions and you've been convicted of those violations over a 12-month period, your certificate, your permit can be revoked. And it's big news. This is going to be a big change. I think most people that live in these high-density rental areas would like to see a little bit more regulation, but the question is, are they going too far? I don't know. You know, I hate to see situations where maybe we just need to give some people guidelines, where we kind of overshoot the target a little bit and we come up with some really strict fines and penalties, where, you know, could you just make every renter sign an agreement to respect their neighbors and comply with town noise ordinance and all that stuff, where they have to sign off and acknowledge it. Could that be enough without 30 days in jail? Next, this is not local news. This was in Bloomberg. They said that the Federal Reserve warns of a U.S. housing bubble. This is the Federal Reserve out of Dallas, I think the article was. And so this, folks, this is not a bubble. Why? I wrote a couple notes here. First of all, you're not going to have a housing bubble without an excess of inventory, right? You're not going to get an excess of inventory in 30, 60, 90 days. It's going to take years to have the inventory situation turn around, right? Two things have to happen. A bunch of people have to put their property on the market, and then at the same time, a bunch of people have to decide that they're no longer buyers. I just don't see it happening. So we have super low inventory and we have super high demand, two things that don't present a bubble. The next thing is interest rates are still incredibly low, right? Not as low as where they were 6 months ago, but historically, they're incredibly low. Next, by all accounts, savings in the United States is at the highest levels that it's ever been. They're seeing between 13 and 20%, where just back 10 years ago, it sat at 7 or 8%. That savings, coupled with all of the money that's been created in people's portfolios, combined with the fact that people that own real estate have seen the value of that real estate go up, I just don't see it. And then finally, the X factor, I hate to bring them up, millennials. Millennials. Everybody said millennials weren't going to buy houses. They were just going to be renters until they had a pandemic and they had to spend all day in their rental property. Now all of a sudden, they're looking around saying, I don't want to be here all day. And so they've jumped into the housing market. And then they bought and then they fixed up, because now where they live is where they work and where they entertain. And it's become more than just a place that they put their head down at the end of the night. Who could have predicted a pandemic? Now our mailbag, Kristen asks, I've heard how much I can get for my house right now, but I like it here and I don't want to sell now, only to settle for an overpriced home I don't love. Am I missing something, or is there a way to cash out my equity in a way that makes sense? So, great question, Kristen. So the first part of your statement says that you're in a house you like. Well, if you like the house, stay there. You don't have to move. But the question is it really the house that you want? Because if you trade dollars for dollars, really valuations right now don't matter. If your house is worth $1 million and you sell it and you buy a house for $1.2 million, the difference is $200,000. That's the same as if you sold your house for $500,000 and bought a new house for $700,000. Just be concerned about the delta. And if you're selling for a really high price, and yes, you're buying for a really high price, that's no different than selling for a low price and buying for a low price. So just buy what you want, make sure it's a reasonably good deal, right? You're gonna sell your house and say, man, I can't believe I just sold it for that. Well, don't try and take the head off the seller on the other side of the transaction. Get a good deal. Get into the house you want. So that's my advice. If you love the house you're in, stay there. If you don't, sell it, get as much for it, and go buy the house that you want to buy. So that's our new format. I invite you to come back. We'll talk about Bluffton next week. Let us know about this new format. If you like it, it was all my idea. If you don't, it's the guys behind the camera. You won't hurt my feelings.